Good morning. Today we are dealing with fusion reactors. We know that the fission and fusion reactions produce more energy, and fission based reactors are used to generate electricity, and we can use the fusion reaction or fusion reactors since fusion reactions have many advantages over the fission reactions. Here you can see a picture of ITER. ITER stands for International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. So this is a picture of a nuclear reactor which uses nuclear fusion energy, and this fusion reactor is safer than a fission reactor. And in fusion process we will see in detail the fuels used are deuterium and tritium, which are easily available from seawater. And this ITER is being built in France in collaboration with 7 countries. So that's about ITER, that is an International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor which uses the process of nuclear fusion. So what is nuclear fusion? We know that hydrogen nuclei fuse to form helium nuclei with the liberation of energy. So here we are using H12 and H13. So they fuse together, come together and combine and produce a helium nuclei, a neutron with a total energy of 17.6 MeV. So that is a nuclear fusion process. Now, which are the raw materials used for fusion? We use mainly 2 materials that are the isotopes of hydrogen. One is deuterium and another is tritium. Deuterium is an isotope of hydrogen represented by H12. So it is having 1 proton and 1 neutron. So deuterium is an isotope of hydrogen having 1 proton and 1 neutron, and its symbol is H12. Now the next raw material is tritium, which is also an isotope of hydrogen represented by H13, so that it contains 1 proton and 2 neutron. And what is the difference between this deuterium and tritium is that deuterium is present in seawater and it is very cheap to extract deuterium from seawater. So deuterium is easily available from seawater. But in the case of tritium, it does not occur naturally. So since it doesn't occur naturally, it can be produced from the neutron bombardment of lithium, which is naturally abundant. Lithium is naturally abundant. So on bombarding lithium with a neutron, we can achieve tritium. So deuterium and tritium are the raw materials which are used for the nuclear fusion process. Now, what are the advantages of this fusion process? First one, we had already discussed that the abundance of input fuels. Input fuels means here the input fuels used are, we had already discussed that the raw materials are deuterium and tritium, in which deuterium is easily available from seawater and tritium can be made available by bombarding lithium with a neutron, which can be made in the fusion reactor itself. So the abundance of input fuels is a main advantage of the nuclear fusion process. Now second one is safe. There is no radioactive pollutants formed as a byproduct of a fusion reaction. So that the products of the fusion reactions are safe. And also the products are clean. That means no combustion byproducts are formed after the process of fusion. So three advantages: abundance of input fuels, safe and clean. Now one more advantage is that the energy yield per unit mass of the fuel is more in fusion than in fission. I repeat, the energy yield per unit mass of the fuel is more in fusion than in fission. So these are the advantages of fusion reaction. And this fusion reaction has some difficulties also. We know that two hydrogen nuclei fuse to form the helium nuclei. So since two hydrogen nuclei come closer, it has to overcome the Coulomb barrier or the repulsive force. So that is a first difficulty, that is, it should overcome the Coulomb barrier. Second one is plasma turbulence, which we will discuss. So there are mainly two types of nuclear fusion reactions. They are deuteron-deuteron reaction, that is DD reaction, and deuteron-tritium reaction. So two types of nuclear reaction. First one is deuterium-deuterium reaction. And this deuterium-deuterium reaction can be of two methods. See, deuterium is H12. So H12 plus H12 giving He23 plus nitrogen plus 3.27 MeV. So this is the first deuterium-deuterium reaction in which two deuterium nuclei fuse to form a helium nuclei. Now the next reaction is, here you can see again, H12 plus H12 giving H13 plus H11 plus 4.03 MeV. So whenever these two deuterium nuclei fuse, there is a chance for this reaction also to occur. See what happens when two deuterium nuclei fuse together. It forms a tritium, a proton and energy. So these are the DD reactions in which in the first reactions two deuterium nuclei fuse to form a helium nuclei, a neutron and energy. And in the second way, the two deuterons fuse together to form a tritium, a proton and energy. So both these DD reactions have about equal probabilities. Equal probabilities means whenever two deuterons fuse, either the first reaction can occur or the second reaction. So both these DD reactions have the same probability. So that is the deuterium-deuterium fusion reaction. Now the next fusion reaction is deuterium-tritium fusion reaction or DT reaction, in which, as the name suggests, DT reaction means one deuterium and one tritium combine to form a helium nuclei with a release of a neutron and an energy of 17.59 MeV. So that is the DT reaction, in which a deuteron and a tritium fuse to form a helium nucleus and a neutron with a release of 17.59 MeV. So these are the two types of nuclear fusion reactions. One is DD reaction and second one is DT reaction. Now our topic is fusion reactors, isn't it? Now what are the basic requirements of a fusion reactor? See, during fusion process, fusing nuclei has to come together, isn't it? So during this process, very strong Coulombic repulsion exists between this fusing nuclei. So in order to occur this fusion process, the Coulombic repulsive force has to be overcome. How? By providing large kinetic energy. So how we can provide a large kinetic energy? That can be obtained by an accelerator. So the first requirement of a fusion reactor is that a fusion reactor requires an accelerator in order to provide very high kinetic energy to overcome the strong Coulombic repulsion between the two fusing nuclei. Now second one is that to obtain energy from fusion, particles must be heated to a very high temperature. A very high temperature means approximately 10 raised to 8 Kelvin. And this high temperature can be seen only in the interior of stars. So what happens in the interior of the stars? The interior of stars, there is a state called plasma, which consists of gas having positive ions and negative electrons. So the main problem is that such state must be there inside a fusion reactor. We know that for fusion reaction to take place, high temperature is required, which is approximately 10 raised to 8 Kelvin. And this much temperature we can see only in the interior of the stars, where there is a gas consists of positive ions and negative electrons, and that state is called plasma. So that the main problem for a fusion reactor is that to confine the plasma for a long time so that the fusion reaction can take place. So the condition that exists in the interior of the stars have to be there in a fusion reactor so that the fusion reaction will take place properly in a fusion reactor. So high temperature, that is approximately 10 raised to 8 Kelvin, which can be seen in the interior of the stars, have to be there in a fusion reactor so that the plasma can be confined. Confined means the plasma must be stable enough for a long time so that nuclear fusion can occur. So that is the second requirement of a fusion reactor. Now the third requirement is that the energy which is required to heat the plasma is proportional to the density of ions given by small n. So the plasma must be heated to a sufficiently high temperature in a fusion reactor. That energy which is required to heat the plasma will be proportional to the density of the ions N. Now, what is confinement time? We know that plasma has to be there for a particular time so that nuclear fusion will take place inside a fusion reactor. So that time is known as confinement time, represented by tau. So there is a value, that is N into tau must be greater than 10 raised to 20 S meter raised to minus 3. So this is the condition. This condition is known as Lawson criterion, where N is the density of the ions and tau is the confinement time. So N into tau must be greater than 10 raised to 20 second meter raised to minus 3. For what this condition has to be satisfied? For the output energy to exceed the input energy, this condition has to be satisfied. I repeat, for the output energy to exceed the input energy, this condition has to be satisfied, and this condition is known as Lawson criterion. And this parameter N into tau is known as the confinement quality parameter, which is related to the plasma confinement, isn't it? So that this N into tau is known as the confinement quality parameter. So what happens when this criteria is met? When the criteria is met, the fusion reactor will release an energy which will be equal to the input energy. So that this condition is known as break-even condition. So when the above criterion, that is the Lawson criterion, that is N tau greater than 10 raised to 20, the energy released by a fusion reactor will be just equal to the input energy. Then we can say that it is the break-even condition. So that's about the fusion reactor. Now, we had told that there is a state called plasma inside the interior of the stars, so that such a state has to be maintained inside a fusion reactor so that fusion must take place. So now we are going to deal with this plasma. So what is plasma and what is plasma confinement? What is confinement? Confinement refers to all the conditions necessary to keep a plasma dense as well as hot long enough to undergo fusion. That means we have to maintain the plasma in such a state that the nuclear fusion should take place. So that is meant by confinement. So confinement refers to all the conditions necessary to keep a plasma dense and hot long enough to undergo fusion. Now, how plasma is formed? What happens when we provide heat to an atom or molecule? What will happen? The atoms are getting more energy, isn't it? So that they may be ionized. So that the electrons may be ejected out. See, here you can see a picture. So on getting more energy, the electrons are ejected out from the atom. So that the atom gets ionized. Atom will become positively charged ion. So after the escape of electron, atom becomes ions. In sufficiently heated gas, ionization happens many times. So whenever we provide more energy, what happens? More and more electrons will be liberated out of the atom, so that atom gets more ionized. So there will be a mixture consisting of both ions, electrons as well as neutral atoms. So such mixture is known as plasma. This ionized gas mixture consisting of ions, electrons and neutral atoms is called plasma. So this plasma contains mainly ions and positively ions and negative electrons. So how this plasma is formed? On getting energy, electrons are emitted out so that the atom becomes ionized. So these are ionized atoms as well as expelled electrons together form a gas known as plasma. Now how we can confine the plasma? Plasma cannot be confined by solid walls. Then how can we confine it? We had already said that in the interior of stars there is plasma. Now how the plasma exists there? It is due to the gravity. We know that the sun is having plasma inside it. So that the enormous gravitational field of the sun confines plasma in the interior of the sun. Similar in the case of other planets also. The gravity or the gravitational field will confine plasma in their interior. So that is the first method to confine it, using gravity. Now the second method is using magnetic field. For example, we are studying tokamak. Tokamak, that is Tokamak, tokamak, in which the plasma is confined using magnetic field. Now the next method is we are using strong laser beams in order to confine this plasma, and that method is known as the inertial confinement fusion. So mainly we can say that there are three methods to confine plasma: by using gravity, by using magnetic field as in tokamak, by using strong laser beams as in inertial confinement. Now we will study about this tokamak and this inertial confinement. So in magnetic confinement we use a tokamak. In inertial confinement also we will study about that. Now what is magnetic confinement? Magnetic confinement uses magnetic field, isn't it? Whenever magnetic field is used, magnetic Lorentz force will act. And this magnetic Lorentz force, as you know, is perpendicular to B magnetic field as well as the particle velocity. So that the closed magnetic field lines, see in the last line, the closed magnetic field lines can trap large plasma volumes. So this is the main principle behind the magnetic confinement of plasma. That is, the closed magnetic field lines can trap plasma. For example, this is the tokamak, Tokamak, that is the reactor. Most efficient shape for the magnetically confined plasma is a donut shape or toroid shape. A reactor, a fusion reactor of this shape is called as tokamak, which is a Russian acronym for toroidal chamber with axial magnetic field. So toroidal chamber with axial magnetic field is called a tokamak, which is a fusion reactor in which magnetic field lines, closed magnetic field lines, will trap the plasma inside. So here you can see the plasma inside this toroid. So the plasma, which consists of a gas mixture of positive ions, negatively charged electrons. So this plasma is moving inside. So there is a magnetic field. So charged particles are moving means there is a magnetic field. That magnetic field is denoted by this, that is the poloidal field magnet. And also another, see, this is toroid. These are the windings. So there is current through this winding. So it produces another magnetic field which is known as the toroidal field magnet. So in magnetic confinement fusion method, it uses the electrical conductivity of the plasma to contain it with a magnetic field. So the electrical conductivity of the plasma is used here so that the plasma is having in this type of confinement, there are two magnetic fields, that are poloidal magnetic field and toroidal magnetic field. By using these fields, the plasma is confined inside the toroid. So this is another picture showing the plasma current here. So that corresponds to the poloidal magnetic field, and here there is windings in the toroid. So they are known as the toroidal field coil. So in that field coil there is field current also there. So these two magnetic field lines will trap the plasma inside. Now second one is the inertial confinement method, which is a process which is used to initiate the nuclear fusion reactions by heating and compressing a fuel. A fuel is heated and compressed. Here, this heating and compressing is done with the help of high-powered lasers. So, high-powered lasers are used to force the nuclear fusion of tiny pellets of deuterium-tritium mixture by zapping them with such a high energy density that they will fuse before they have time to move away from each other. That means, see, laser beam is incident on the deuterium-tritium pellets, and due to this incident laser beam, these pellets get heated as well as compressed, so that this deuterium-tritium, we know that the DT reaction will result in a fusion process, so that this laser beam will heat and compress this deuterium-tritium pellets, and thus nuclear fusion will take place. So that the inertial confinement method. See, here you can see the laser beams rapidly heat the pellet inside, and it is heated and pressurized so much that the plasma conditions will take place inside that pellet and the fusion will occur. So a small fuel pellet of deuterium and tritium is heated and pressurized with laser light, so that fusion occurs, releasing more energy than was input. So that is the inertial confinement method, which uses high energetic laser beams, and these laser beams will heat the deuterium-tritium pellets to a high temperature, so that it gets compressed and its density is increased, and so that the conditions are met and the nuclear fusion will take place, releasing energy. So that are the two types of confinement methods. Magnetic confinement method, in which the fusion reactor is known as tokamak, and the second one is the inertial confinement method, in which deuterium-tritium pellets are used to undergo the nuclear fusion process with the help of the laser beam. Now, ITER, International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor, as we said, is a nuclear fusion research project which is established on 24th October 2007, which is the world's largest and most advanced fusion reactor, having its headquarters in France, and this project is funded and run by its members like European Union, India, Japan, China, Russia, South Korea and United States. So that this project aims to make the long-awaited transition from theoretical studies of plasma physics to full-scale electricity producing fusion power plants. We are in need of electricity, isn't it? So that here in this project they aim at producing electricity from fusion power plants. That's about the ITER, International Thermonuclear Experimental Reactor. Thank you.